This video is sponsored by Noom.
Hey, what's up? Today I'm in Seoul, South Korea with my wife, Lauren.
Hi.
And we're gonna take you on a food tour. Before I get started, let me just clarify that I am not a Korean food expert, but I am an enthusiast. Today, Lauren and I are just gonna show you some of the dishes that we've enjoyed over the last few days of hanging out in Seoul. And I'm also gonna eat a few new things that I've never had before to keep it kind of spicy. So let's get started with breakfast. We found a really good spot close to our hotel in Myeongdong that serves great abalone porridge, or in Korean, I think it's called Jeonbok-juk. As far as I know, rice porridge is a pretty traditional breakfast here in Korea, and the abalone version is a classic version of that. So right away for me, it tastes kind of like chicken and rice soup. It's super comforting and rich and kind of like umami. And it's kind of got a chickeny flavor. And I don't know if that's from the abalone that's in there. Getting some of the toasty sesame in there with bites of the abalone, bites of the seaweed, kind of brings it into a sushi direction, which is also really fun. And it's kind of like a combination of congee and risotto as well. Like, it has a really nice full body texture in your mouth. And when you get the rice that's kind of like broken and super starchy, it makes like a sauce that holds the really nice rice in suspension. I totally get why this would be an amazing way to start your day. It's super comforting, delicious, and it comes with all these crunchy, salty things on the side to sort of like make it that much more flavorful.
감사합니다.
So another savory dish that we've had for breakfast a few times in Seoul is a beef bone soup that's called, it starts with an S, I'll put that on the bottom of the screen. It's essentially a boiled beef soup that has a really nice white, rich, creamy broth with some tender, tendony beef and some rice and rice noodles. And it's usually served with kimchi, like everything in South Korea, which is great because it brings some crunch and a little bit of life to what is kind of like a round, robust, kind of mellow flavored dish. That way you get something that's kind of spicy and a little bit more intense. And soup for breakfast for Americans sounds pretty different, but it turns out that it's real sick. Right away, it has such a bone flavor. It's kind of like calcium-y or like mineral-y. It sounds weird, but it's actually super good because it's paired with like very beefy flavor. If it was just bone flavor, it'd be kind of weird. But like, speaking of beef flavor, this is like extremely beefy. I think to get it white like this, they actually simmer the bones and the meat super hard to both like render out the fat and emulsify it in the broth. And then there's also a bunch of beef fat kind of floating on top, which is also amazing because it coats your lips. It's super unctuous. And it's like kind of like a more mildly spiced version of pho, Vietnamese pho. And then you've got some fresh green onions in here floating around to bring that sort of like vibrant green edge that you just don't get from anything else in this soup. And then you got double carbs in here. You've got rice and rice noodles to bring two different textures and to just make sure that you feel extra comforted to start the day. The beef itself in this soup is also really special because it's like joints and tendony type stuff that's been simmered for a really long time. So it's like very gelatinous and super tender. And when you eat all of that like rendered cartilaginous stuff, it's like luxurious and unctuous and just really tender. All the beef is perfectly cooked. There's even some of what looks like beef stomach in here. And usually I really hate that, like not a fan at all, but this is really good. It's tender. And there's this vinegary soy sauce with a bunch of chilies in it that you dip the beef in if you want to bring a little bit of salt and a little bit of extra sort of vibe. And it is really good. All in all, like probably the perfect breakfast. It's so good.
감사합니다.
So while we walk to lunch, we're gonna do a little bit of light snacking with some convenience store food. This is something that Lauren turned me on to, and it's essentially a sushi roll with tuna salad inside of it. And it is like one of the best things I've eaten in Korea the entire time. Right away, it's like extremely nostalgic for me. I grew up eating tons of tuna salad, and just the combo of like very mayo heavy tuna with some sort of squishy white starch just instantly brings me back to lunchtime tuna salads. And like the rice has like an amazing texture. It's soft, but also chewy and kind of cold. And that kind of sounds like it would be bad, like cold rice doesn't sound delicious, but it really is. Paired with like just some simple toasted nori, and it's like an extremely civilized lunch tea, like just from point A to point B. You want to try it?
Yeah. Yeah. I really miss this.
So we're about to eat lunch at a place called Kyoja, which is essentially a fast food restaurant, but not in the way that you would think of it in the United States. Basically, they've only got 4 items on the menu, and the whole place is designed to just turn and burn people. There's like 200 seats inside, and every time we've been by, it's been totally slammed, and for good reason. Here, they make dumplings, dumpling soup, a spicy noodle dish called bibimbap, and a soybean noodle soup called kongguk. Today we're here for the spicy noodles and the mandu, or the dumplings. So these are mandu, which is essentially just like a Korean dumpling. Pork, leek, scallion. Overall, a really clean, mild flavor, but like still super flavorful. Like the leek and the scallion really stand out. And this little sauce that they give you is like a vinegary soy sauce that kind of balances it all out. And the skin of the dumpling too is like super tender, but a little chewy. As a dude from the Midwest, dumplings are not very big culturally, so it's such a treat to be able to have something that is handmade, so tender, so like succulent, I guess is the best way to describe it. And having a little bit of something salty and a little bit sour to dip it in just kind of balances the whole thing. It's really good. The next dish that they have here is what I think is called bibimbap, which is a chlorella noodle sitting in this really spicy, very sesame heavy sauce. There's some cucumbers in here, some marinated cucumbers, and yeah, what looks to be like some kind of gochujang based chili paste, and then some ground pork too. It's so like well balanced. It's definitely pretty sweet. Like a lot of Korean food has sweetness in it, I've noticed. The spice is definitely pretty prevalent, like it's pretty spicy, but it's definitely like not blowing your head off spicy. And very, very sesame forward. Like a lot of the other food we've had in Seoul so far, like sesame is a huge predominant flavor. And texturally the noodles are like quite squishy, like they're boiled pretty hard, which is fun. They're like just softer than chewy. That's how I would describe them. And a whole bowl of this, like just very saucy, very sweet, very powerful chili sauce with tons of sesame flavor is just really fun. It's really, really good. Now that I've eaten half of what's on this menu, I'm gonna try a third item that I haven't had yet this week. This is mandu soup, essentially just like dumpling soup. It's almost opaque with sort of meaty richness. Whoa. There's onions in here that look maybe like, if not caramelized, roasted, and they're bringing that kind of, yeah, look at that. That's like a roasted onion right there.
The roast smells like roasted onions too.
Yeah, so it definitely has that sort of sweet, savory thing going on, and just some really nice, what look to be like maybe 50-50 rice wheat noodles.
They're hand cut.
They look slippery, but they surprisingly hold this sauce well because it's so full-bodied. Let me get a dumpling to see how it's different from the bigger ones. That looks really great. I'd say my favorite is probably the dumplings, just because I don't eat dumplings ever. They're just not they're not available to us in St. Louis. So that's like a really special treat. Texturally, they're so good. But the thing that's the biggest surprise is the spicy noodle dish. Like, I really, really like that because it is so sesame forward and it is so like in balance. It's cool to have something like that, which is basically a cold noodle salad that is nothing like Western cooking at all. Like, it's dressed with salad dressing, essentially, but it's made from gochujang and sesame oil as opposed to oil and vinegar like it would be in the West. So it's really sick. This is a really fun restaurant, and if you're in Yeongdong, you should definitely check it out. So I really couldn't capture this in the restaurant, but it's really crazy in there. From the time we sat down to the time we got our food was probably about 3 minutes, and it came to us on a robot. I don't know if Lauren was able to capture that or not.
When you sit down, you immediately order. There's only 4 items on the menu, and then you pay immediately.
Yeah, they're like, pay, 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 pay. And then your food comes on a robot, and then like within 5 to 6 minutes, they're like, are you done? And luckily,
They're not rushing, like they just assume. They're churning through.
yeah, that restaurant probably does like 300 to 400 people per hour. It's totally insane.
Respect.
But good though.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go to a neighborhood called Insadong
Incident.
to get a street food treat that I had never had and Lauren had never had in her whole time living here. So we're gonna get on the subway and we'll see you over there. So now we're in Insadong, which has a family-friendly, kind of chill neighborhood vibe from what I can tell. There's a lot of people walking around, doing some shopping.
Lots of art galleries, lots of handmade goods.
Yeah, and there's a lot of street food along the edge of the street. People selling like candied grapes and all kinds of other stuff. But we're here to try a dish called chalba, which I'm told is kind of like a Korean style burrito. I've never had one and I'm pretty stoked on it, and the cart is like right up here. So that's a chalba. It doesn't look that much like a burrito. It's kind of like a flat, white, starchy looking thing. It tastes kind of like something from 7-Eleven. You've got onions and carrots and obviously some pork rib. And it's all sitting in kind of a savory, spicy sauce that I assume is made with gochujang or something like it. So the wrapper is made from like glutinous rice. And it has such a cool texture. It's squishy, but also very firm. It's like taking rice right out of the rice cooker and smushing it in the palm of your hand into a really tight, small ball, and then like cooling it down so it's set. It's like just really chewy. Chalbas are sick, dude. Now we're just up the street from where we had the chalba, and we got a snack called a ho-duk. I think that's how you say it. It's essentially like a fried glutinous rice dough, very similar to the chalba. But instead of being stuffed with like pork ribs, this one is stuffed with cinnamon sugar, some sunflower seeds. I think there might be walnuts in there and some pumpkin seeds too. And then they put it into some corn oil to fry it. Halfway through, they flip it over, they press it down, and then fry the other side until it's all super browned up and crispy, and the sugar inside's gotten all molten. You can find these in pretty much every neighborhood in Seoul, and we've had them pretty much every night of this trip so far.
Oops.
That's paper, dude. Oh my God. It is a little greasy, but honestly in a good way, because the oil tastes good. She was adding fresh oil into the fryer the whole time, so it wasn't getting burnt or scorched. And the interior sugar gets all kind of molten, and you mix that with the very chewy, very soft, almost gummy rice flour dough, and just texturally it's super interesting. Way different from any kind of fried dough I've had in America. All right, now we're gonna head over about 1.5 miles away from here to a neighborhood called Dongdaemun and visit a market called Gwangjang. That's totally insane. While we walk there, I'm gonna take a quick second to thank the sponsor of this video, Noom. Noom is a way to get healthy and stay healthy that doesn't revolve around dieting or restriction. It's a program that allows you to achieve your health goals using science and psychology along with real human coaching. For me personally, Noom has been a really good way to reinforce healthy habits like eating right and exercising more, but for certain people, like my mother-in-law, Noom is a really great way to lose weight. She's actually lost 30 pounds in the last year, and she probably wouldn't want me telling the internet that, but she looks great, she feels great, and she's used Noom to get there sustainably. Overall, the most useful part of Noom for me has been the daily lessons, where you get little doses of cognitive behavioral psychology mixed with nutrition science. Specifically, the Eat Less Dense lesson has been really influential on the way that I currently eat, because it turns out that the most nutritious foods are also the least calorie dense, so you can eat more of them. And like you, I like more. So take your free 30-second quiz right now by going to noom.com/Brian Lagerstrom. Again, head to noom.com/Brian Lagerstrom to take your free 30-second quiz. The link will be in the description box below, so check that out. And thank you, Noom, for sponsoring this video. Okay, now we have made it to Dongdaemun, and across the street from me now is the Gwangjang Market. And let me just say before we go in, it's the most insane food market I've ever been in my entire life. There's hundreds of food stalls,
Thousands.
like incomprehensible amount of food stalls, and seemingly they all make almost the same thing, or at least a lot of them do. And we're here to investigate the Korean mung bean style pancake. It's kind of a specialty here, and we're going in, so you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second.
Pancakes with stuff in them, mussels.
Ooh.
Bean sprout pancake. Let's find a place to sit down and have one.
Okay. You lead the way.
As you can see, it's like quite crispy, and the mung beans are like sitting in some kind of golden batter, or they're making the batter. I really can't tell. It kind of defies all the odds. But there's bean sprouts in it too to bring some texture, so. Whoa.
And they grind these mung beans fresh here
Right.
and make the batter, and you can see it happening.
I'm gonna dip it in this vinegar, oniony vinegar that they give you with it. Let's see what that's about. Oh, whoa,
Is that next level?
bro. It's salty and sour. Tastes light brown like it looks. This pancake is so much better than the one we had yesterday.
Really?
Is it? Do you think it's gluten free?
I know it is because we see them grinding the
Oh,
mung
yeah,
beans.
right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It has a really interesting freshness to it. I mean, it tastes like bean sprouts.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it tastes like corn, but it doesn't not taste like corn.
Yeah, it definitely has like a grain element to it, but
It's like a fritter.
yeah, it is like a fritter.
If I had to guess, the sauce is probably just like a plain light vinegar and soy sauce.
No
There's-
sugar?
I don't think there's any sugar. It's really simple and really clean, and it just brings all of the salt and acidity that you would need to make something rich and crunchy balanced. So the last stop of this tour is in a neighborhood called Iksidong, which Ixion, damn it.
I think that's where we are.
Which is a part of town where at night a bunch of street vendors set up like makeshift restaurants along the side of the road. There's also a bunch of brick and mortar restaurants here, and somehow they're like cool with having like 150 pop-up restaurants. Today is Sunday night, so the vibe around here is a little bit more chill. There's maybe like 500 or 600 people on the street eating. Last night on Saturday, there was literally like 5,000 people on the street eating, and it was really insane. We're gonna do some soju here. We've got some 감사합니다. 감사합니다. So we're gonna drink some soju, has some stir-fried eel, some chicken skewers, and kind of have like a chill end to this 5,000 calorie eating situation.
Shall we?
So this first dish is stir-fried eel with some onions, some green onions, sesames, garlic. Whoa. So it's a little chewy, good flavor. It's got kind of a chili paste flavor going on. Great texture on the outside, kind of crispy around the edges. I mean, it is a little rubbery, but not so much that it's not enjoyable. Overall, just like a really fun dish. It comes in this aluminum foil wrapped plate, and you know, we're sitting in the street drinking soju, just having fun. Next, we're gonna be snacking on some of these grilled chicken skewers, and it just looks classic. Yeah, sweet grilled chicken thighs with some scallions on a stick with a bunch of sesame seeds.
What's the sauce?
Same as for the eel. It's kind of like a sweet, just Korean barbecue style sauce. So gochujang, a little sesame oil probably, a little bit of sugar, some soy sauce. And honestly, that's probably it. And it doesn't need any more. It's just like grilled chicken thighs on a stick. It's so sick. You gotta try this.
Yes. Yes, please. I gotta say, I'm starving. For eating all day, I'm starving.
Why are you eating off a stick with your fingers? So
That's a full day of eating for us here in South Korea.
9 meal day of eating.
Yeah, it's a lot of food. Obviously, it's not a definitive like expose of all of the delicious food here in Korea. That's just the stuff that we like and have liked over the last few days of eating here. If you guys liked this video and want to see more like it, please let me know down in the comments.
We want to make it.
It's been really fun. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hi. And bye.